Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Bohemian Dragon. I am your hostess, Lori, and welcome to the first Indie Thursday live stream where we are going to be promoting indie creators of tarot decks and oracle decks, and then we'll see how it goes from there. I am super, super, super excited about this, and the delay is killing me. Okay, so I'm Lori. Hopefully you guys saw. All right. I'm looking back and forth between my phone and here because that's how I see you guys in the chat. So I will be able to see you guys and what you're saying in the chat. Um, but I'm also checking the delay because it's been a while since I've live streamed on YouTube. Like at least 6 months or more. And they've tweaked a few things since then. All right, so let's get started. Which means we have to get my lovely face out of the way. Make me tiny. And move me down. And turn Chrome on. Okay, so the first deck, straight out the gate, I wanted... Oh, that was weird vertigo for a second there. If you guys notice, I'm normally when you guys see my videos and stuff, I have been in here, but I was starting to move out to the office, and I'm back in the bedroom again today because it's a bad fibro day, but I didn't want to cancel on you guys because I canceled last week due to YouTube's hiccup. So, we're going with it today. So the first deck I wanted to, well, before I get into the first deck, I wanted to touch base with you guys on tarot decks and oracle decks. So, tarot decks and oracle decks originated, sometime they speculate based on, scholarly evidence and stuff, out of Egypt in the 14th century. And it started out as playing card games. As time went on and stuff. Sometime during the 18th century, they're not entirely certain when, um, these cards started being used for divination purposes. And then original decks were created. However, they do have some evidence of hand painted decks from the 15th century, but but they have no scholarly evidence on whether or not they were used just as playing cards or if they were used for divination purposes. Now, at some point on another vlog, I'm going to get into all of the, myths regarding tarot and the oracle, but I'm not going to touch on that today because I'm here to promote indie creators. One of the things that I love about indie creators is that they can bring to the table any kind of design that they want, and they don't have to worry about going through the vetting process. And so, not of course, every deck that pops into somebody's head comes into creation, but some of them do. And I'm going to show you some of my favorites today. And then hopefully next week, I will have some more interaction from the community, and we'll be able to live stream submissions by the community. So right now, these are just the ones that have come up that I'm in love with. Straight out the gate, I wanted to introduce you guys to Midnight City Tarot deck. The Fool's Journey Through New York City. Now, this deck was created by a lovely lady who I believe her name was Jackie. Let me get back to the campaign here real fast. Yep, Jackie. It's really bad that I can't remember her first name. Great with faces, terrible with names. Created by a lovely lady named Jackie, who I actually have been in touch with via Instagram. And exciting, I have well, it's not scheduled yet because we're going to touch base later in the summer, but sometime hopefully either August or September, I'm going to be able to sit down with Jackie in one of these live streams, and we're going to do a live interview for you guys, which I'm super excited about. But I wanted to show you guys her tarot deck. This is a deck that I have to be honest, I have backed, because if you guys know me, I love color, and I love the mixes of colors, and this deck just really resonated with my soul. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video here. Hopefully the audio comes through.
Introducing
Oh God,
Midnight
that's
City
loud.
Tarot, a modern deck
Let's try that.
inspired by the
Oop,
Fool's
that's loud.
Journey through New York City. Midnight City Tarot is based on the traditional 78-card tarot system with a uniquely metropolitan twist. This is the tarot experienced in New York City. This deck was hand illustrated in Brooklyn, New York, using modern interpretations of ancient symbols. Iconic New York landmarks, as well as locally loved places, provide a new setting for the Fool's modern journey. The vivid color palette, approachable style, and art that breaks the borders invites you to imagine yourself and the people in your life within each of the cards. The detailed scenes depicted on every card convey their meaning, making it effortless to pick up this deck and receive messages on day one. For extra support, every deck comes with a guidebook that includes information about the art, as well as upright and reverse meanings. Midnight City Tarot is meant to deepen your connection to your own inner guidance, expand your relationship to the tarot, and serve as your own personal portal into the most magical, tarot-inspired version of New York City. Hi, I'm Jackie, the creator and illustrator of Midnight City Tarot. I'm so excited to be launching the first edition of this deck exclusively on Kickstarter. If this project is something that resonates with you, I hope that you'll back it and buy a deck, and share this video with your most magical friends. Thank you for checking out the video, and I'll see you in Midnight City.
This deck, when I caught it, I caught an image of it on Twitter, and I had to, of course, track it down and figure out where it was and stuff. And I was super, super excited when it launched. Um, the coloring alone is the first thing that drew me. But one of the things I love about this deck is it's very inclusive. Uh, Jackie doesn't have a lot of personalization to the humanoid figures in the deck, so they could be anybody. They could be male, female, non-binary, straight, gay, whatever. And that's one of the things that I love about this deck is it's very inclusive. Even though I don't know that that was necessarily her goal in it. I think she just wanted to capture her love of New York and of New York City and stuff, because she's talked about in her Instagram posts about the different cards and like the different places that they were inspired by and stuff, and how some of them, some cards in particular, are kind of like a love story or a love poem to a particular location and stuff. And but I love how it's a very inclusive deck. So I have backed this deck. If this deck interests you, please, please, please check it out. Uh, let's move on to the next one. So the next one is a set or a deck that's not out yet, and it's going to be the Chromatic Fates Tarot deck, and it's coming sometime this spring to Kickstarter. But they're working with dozens of different artists to bring them all together for this one particular deck. They do currently have a very active Twitter page. Some of their other socials, like their Facebook and their Instagram, aren't nearly as active, but their Twitter account is fairly active, because the individual artists are also tweeting as well about the different, cards that they've done in the project. One of the reasons why this one captured me was the each of the artists that they picked have their own unique artwork that is going into these cards. But on top of that, like this one here, I mean, it's just gorgeous. But on top of that, it's again the colors. I love the colors. I'm such a big proponent of color. I mean, I'm not saying that a black and white deck isn't cool. They can be. But colored decks just really resonate with me and they really capture my attention. But what I love about this deck is that, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it come into existence, is that even though they have dozens of different artists that they're working with, they all the cards seem to feel like they kind of flow together, even though each artist brings their own individual perspective, their individual like attention, their individual perspective to the cards that they're working on, because every artist has their own unique like fingerprint, like the way they do things, and no two artists are the same. They may have similar artwork, but they're not exactly the same. And even though they have dozens of different artists working on this particular project, let's go over here to the artist real fast. As you can see here, they've got all the different artists that are here, and you can see that each of these artists has a very unique, very different art style in the way they do things from shading and whatnot, but it still feels cohesive. It still feels like each of these artists belong here together, even though they're all very individual and very unique artists. And that each of the cards that I have seen so far that they have shown on their Twitter page are very unique, but also blend together really, really well. So here's their Twitter page. And let me go to media. So here is the Queen of Cups. Let's see if I can get, there's a larger, just absolutely gorgeous. And up close. And then here is the Five of Coins. Completely different artist, but it still feels like it's meant to be in the same deck. And I love that about this. So this is they call it their collective is the Color Tarot Project, but the deck is Chromatic Fates. So next we get into a little bit more of less about, you know, we've done the city thing where it's pop colors, kind of neon colors and stuff, and then we've kind of got the mystical, magical, kind of feels like a fantasy novel. And then we've got Sad Sick Girls. Now, I discovered Sad Sick Girls, in particular their Star Power Tarot deck, through another tarot reader whose name escapes me. I caught one of her lives on Facebook a while back, and she was reading from the Star Power Tarot deck. And what caught me, of course, again, was the artwork. But that even though some of the artwork is very, I guess, kind of memeable, there's a little bit of a punk feel to it, a little kind of grunge feel to their artwork. It still resonated and was very powerful to me. So this is a couple of series of decks. Now, Sad Sick Girls, they've done the Star Power deck and then now the Moon Power tarot deck, which is of course on my wish list. And it's just okay. Come on, load. Thank you. There's a sense of not necessarily disjointedness, but like if tarot was kind of flipped onto its head and then to its side and then spun like a kaleidoscope, that's a little bit of the feel that goes into this. There's a little bit of irreverence. There's iconography that is very indicative of our current modern day and age. And it's just, like the Page of Pentacles here. It just really blows me away how unique and different this deck is in comparison to everything else that I've seen. I love too that they've got like here the death card. I thought was very interesting. Now the death card in tarot does not mean that somebody's going to die. It just means change. Depending upon where it lands in the reading, it can either mean rapid change or the need for change or that something is about to change, or that you need to make a change. But what I thought was interesting was the iconography here is, I mean, we've got a knight. He's trampling over what looks like a gowned woman, and then we've got what looks like priests kind of praying. But what was interesting to me was the flag, in that it looks like a stylized version of the Tudor rose. Which leads me to believe that this might be kind of a nod to Henry VIII and the way he treated the Catholic Church when he moved from Catholicism to Protestantism. And so there's just all this little different iconography and stuff that just really captures the essence of each of the individual card meetings, but in a way that is so different than anything else out there. And I love that it's got kind of like this kind of punk, almost underground, like not raver vibe, but um, I'm searching for words here. If you saw any of the movies that talked about like the punk scene, and kind of the grunginess of that and stuff, that's kind of that feel, you know, that kind of that kind of like a little bit of fight against the establishment type of feel to it. So that is Sad Sick Girls. Now, over here to I gotta scroll up. I didn't have this to La Mushi Design and the Phantom Tarot deck. Now, this is one that caught my eye. It's launching in April on Kickstarter. I love that it is a fairly fairly strict color palette, but it's done in such a way that it doesn't feel boring. Because sometimes when you work with a very strict color palette, and you don't deviate from that color palette, sometimes in when you get because there's 78 in a traditional tarot deck cards, it can kind of get a little boring sometimes. I have seen that in other decks, not this deck, but I have seen it in other decks. So I love that there's that. The artwork is stunning. I mean, just absolutely stunning. Now, this Lamushi is not. I don't remember where they're based, but they're not a native English speaker, so don't let that catch you by you know. Actually, you know what? They have an Etsy shop. Is there a link somewhere? No. Okay. So I've seen their Etsy shop, but I don't currently have it up. But I'm really loving the artwork of this deck. One of the other things that I think is very interesting too about this particular tarot author is that if you sign up for their emails, they have been weekly sending out emails, kind of polling what people think of the different cards and their illustrations. Maybe like, asking for like, well, would you tweak this? Would you tweak that? How do you feel looking at this card? Really kind of keeping a pulse on their community and working with their community on really streamlining this deck to be something that includes community feedback. And I think that's great, is that they're reaching out and they're bringing in their community before they even launch this deck. So I think that's very smart. But I'm loving the little hints of geometric design in this. I'm loving the colors. This is another thing that I think is interesting and sets them apart from a lot of other indie creators, is they are also coming out with an app for their guidebook. So it says you can open the guidebook app, point the camera at the tarot card, and it'll capture a picture, I'm guessing, and it'll give you the meaning of the card, and then you can like interact with the objects for details on why that iconography is the way it is. And I just think that's so neat, and it really helps bridge the gap in learning, because one of the things that I see in the tarot and oracle community over and over again is like the newer generation is struggling to learn the cards and stuff, because unfortunately a lot of the esoteric meanings behind some of the iconography has not necessarily been lost, but it's kind of obscure. And the older books that talk about how to learn the meanings of tarot don't really cover what to do with some of these more modern interpretations of the cards. So having a guidebook with an app that links to it, especially when nowadays, everybody's got, or just about everybody's got one of these smartphones in their pockets, I really feel is very much keeping in trend with the times. So I think this is great. It's wonderful. I'm super excited to see this launch. The next one I want to show you guys is Tarotbot, which I just think is so fun, is that we come all the way into complete futuristic here. Now, this is one that on Kickstarter I have not backed, but I am considering it. Now, it's done by Michael Murdoch. This is technically the second generation of this. He did Tarotbot I believe in 2019, the original series. But this one is, he decided that there were some things he wanted to change about the original design. So this is like a second edition, but it's different in that it's got the black edges, it's got a different box. So, and I really feel like, because I took a look at the original deck, and the original deck was really neat, but I really feel like the black edges, and he talks about this in the video, I think in the video or somewhere in the campaign, about how the black really makes the colors and the artwork pop, and I agree. So let's watch the video here. Now, real fast, this is an 88 card deck. Now, what that means is that it's got the original, 22 major arcana cards, the 56 minor arcana cards, but he's also made 10 bonus cards, which I think is so cool. So this deck really, again, caught my eye. I actually happened across this deck while I was just browsing Kickstarter's app. Yeah, who knew they had an app? And of course, it's already fully funded, which is really, really cool. But I am super excited to kind of see the stretch goals go, because he has stated that if all of the stretch goals are met, he's going to unlock more cards, which I think is neat. Uh, I really love the original tarot decks, the 78 cards and stuff, but I feel like the cards that he's included so far, the extra 10, I feel like they do have a place. And that in um, the original tarot was created, of course, a long, long time ago, 18th century. And so I love the modern interpretations. I love that he's adding new cards in for, kind of iconography and things that are going on. And he's talked about potentially kind of doing a spin-off and doing an oracle deck, which I really hope he does, because I think he's got a good thing going here. This is a deck that I probably will end up backing. I just kind of need to pull some funds around and stuff. That whole thing of making certain that's got the budget for it. Uh, so that's Tarotbot. Now, the last one I'm going to show you guys is an oracle deck, and this is the Wisdom of the Sacred Bee Oracle. Now, I really, really, wow, and it's jumping even while I'm sitting here. I really love bees. Not necessarily decorating with iconography of bees, but like bees themselves fascinate me. I love honey. Honeycomb, I think, is so unique in that it is this natural like structure, but at the same time it's geometric feeling, so it feels more man-made at the same time. It's just, I kind of feel like that the honeycomb, you know, as a symbol kind of bridges that gap between the manufactured and the natural. But I love bees, and I'm loving this deck because, again, the colors. So let me play the video for you guys. Oh my god. All these videos are way loud. So again, this is one I found while I was perusing around Kickstarter. And I just think it's so neat in that this one in particular is really cool that it was funded in an hour and 10 minutes, which is amazing. And it's already unlocked 3 stretch goals, which is also amazing. But I would love to see it go even beyond that. I really feel like this deck helps captivate that wonder and essence of the bee and how we can connect with nature and help it fuel our meditation and, our love of nature as well. Setting the whole divination side of it aside for a hot second, some people look at tarot decks and oracle decks and they go, well, it doesn't fit with my religious beliefs or whatever and stuff because, oh, it's for divination purposes. And I can appreciate that. I can. But I want to throw something else out there for you guys. For those of you that wouldn't consider buying a tarot deck or oracle deck, keep in mind that buying these is going to help support an indie artist. Now, if you're one of those that supports indie artists, then this would be a great way to do it. It is a very cost-effective way to support an artist. I mean, going back to the Tarot Bot deck, I mean, it's 88 cards. That's 88 pieces of artwork from one artist that is now in your hands. And you don't have to use them for divination. You could mat them and frame them and display them. I have seen plenty of cards where they have been, turned into, framed art pieces and put up on a wall because they're beautiful and they're gorgeous or they're unique or they're interesting. I know plenty of writers that they don't use the decks for divination, they use them as a way for writing prompts. So they'll pull their deck out, they'll shuffle it, they'll pull a card, and that's what their writing prompt is for the day. So there's dozens and dozens of ways that these decks can be utilized that has nothing to do with divination. So I would encourage you, even if you don't believe in divination and think that, it's not something for you, that's fine. But I would encourage you to look at these decks as a collectible, as an art form, as something that you can do to support an artist that you love, or to support an anime that you love, or whatever. I mean, for God's sakes, there's a One Piece tarot deck floating around out there, and I'll get into whole anime tarot decks another day. That's on a vlog. But I really hope that you guys will take a moment and look at each of these decks and each of these artists and creators that I have talked about and spotlighted today. And if you know of one, or if you are an indie creator of a tarot deck or oracle deck, please, please, please reach out to me and let me know and show me your stuff because I want to promote it. I really want to make this a big thing. I want to be able to promote dozens of you each week and have this be an amazing epic live stream of where I can share the joy of your guys' creations, and kind of give back to the community by promoting your stuff. So, thank you guys so much for watching and for joining me on this first live stream. And I hope all of you have an amazing Thursday, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow.